I'm Jenny Drasler. Thanks for joining us as our parent company, Sinclair Broadcast Group and KHQA, continue to work for you, keeping you informed on complex political issues facing our nation. We kick off our Connect to Congress initiative today with U.S. Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa. He's joining us live via satellite in Washington, D.C. Good morning, Senator Grassley. How are you?
I'm glad to be with you, Jenny.
We wanted to start off with a topic today. It's been in the news a lot recently, the Iran nuclear deal. Why are you supporting it, or why are you opposing that deal?
I'm going to vote for a resolution of disapproval. I'll give you three reasons. There's a lot more. Number one, we had to pass a special piece of legislation in May to review this agreement, because under the Constitution, unlike treaties, they don't automatically come before the Congress of the United States. So we have 60 days to review this, ending September the 16th. So under that special law we passed, so I'm giving you my first reason. Under that special law we passed, the agreement, which we have, and all side agreements, which we don't have, and there's two secret agreements between Iran and the International Atomic Energy Agency that we under this law have to have access to, and the President hasn't even read these. The Secretary of State hasn't read them. Somebody else in our government has seen them, but not read them or studied them. So we're being asked to vote on something that we don't even know what these secret side agreements are. We know what the agreement says, but the side agreements we don't know, and that's contrary to the special law we passed. So our constituents expect us to read something before we vote on it. So that's a main reason. The second reason is that these sanctions were hurting Iran. We were in a very strong position because Iran wanted to get out from under the sanctions, so they wanted to negotiate. The president said we were going to have no nukes in Iran. We end up now with Iran being a legally nuclear threshold state within a few years. And so we negotiated away that strong position for a more dangerous world. And lastly, we were told that we would be able to inspect anywhere, anytime. And we can't inspect anywhere, anytime. And these side agreements we're talking about have something to do with that inspection. So for those three reasons, I'm voting no. There are other reasons as well, but I think those are the most important one, particularly the first one.
Alrighty, and kind of moving on to the next kind of topic here. I'm sure you may have seen some video of this recently, disturbing video coming out, but the immigrant refugee crisis, obviously, you know, it's continuing to grow in Europe today, but what can the United States do to help our European counterparts deal with this crisis, and what about the Syrian government?
Well, we already have laws on the books that allow refugees to come here. There has to be once a year consultation between Congress and the Secretary of State. We had that consultation yesterday. Last year we took 70,000 refugees. This year they're going to raise that to 75. I think there's a possibility, they weren't very specific about this, that they want to bring in a lot more compared to what Germany is doing at 1 million. A lot of people say we aren't doing our share, but I think the rest of the world needs to understand that the United States takes about 1 million immigrants legally every year. That doesn't include the undocumented immigrants, just the legal ones. And so we take more immigrants every year than the rest of the world combined. So I think all told, we're doing our share. And probably the 75,000 is not of particular concern, but in the case of Syria, it's very much a concern, because we're getting reports from ISIS that they're going to do things to sneak into the refugee program, people that could cause danger, or are meant to cause danger here in the United States, or I suppose in the case of Europe, in Europe. And so what I brought up with the Secretary of State, since we don't have a database on these people, how are we going to make sure that terrorists don't get in under our refugee program? Well, I'm sure the Secretary of State was very sincere in what he was saying. He says we're just going to take a lot longer to interview people and to do research on them than we would normally do to see that they don't get in. But that's not a safe harbor to satisfy me. And I hope that we're very, very cautious, because it's could be a very dangerous situation for us.
And this is just my last question. I'm going to wrap this up pretty quickly here, but just curious, wanted to know if you had backed a presidential candidate yet, and also what are your thoughts on any Washington outsiders doing pretty well in the polls?
I have only backed two candidates in the past, Senator Dole and George W. Bush in his first race for the presidency. Otherwise, in decades that I've been in the United States Senate, I haven't been involved. And I'm not going to be involved this time. And particularly, if you ask me who I thought ought to be the next president out of 17 Republicans, I would be unable to give you a very sound view at this point. I might be able to pick out 4 or 5 that stand out with me, but I won't do that for your program. I just have not made up my mind, and I'm not going to get involved, except as people individually want me to be at events with them. I'll do that for anybody that asks me to. Like, for instance, at the Iowa State Fair, I went around with 3 different candidates as an example on 3 different occasions.
All right, so no backing the Donald just yet. All right, so we do want to thank you so much, Senator.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true. Thank you very much. Glad to be with you.
Thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate it. And we just want to say that you can watch this interview in its entirety, as well as more Connect to Congress news on our website right now at KHQA.com.